Hello, I'm Paul Dowding, co-founder and head of design for Alpha S Core and our differentiating platform Tapestry X. Today, I'm going to explain the banking and finance supplement to the Government Blockchains Association's blockchain maturity model. In conjunction with the UN's IGF, the Blockchain Assurance and Standardization Dynamic Coalition has adopted the Government Blockchain Association blockchain maturity model. First, a quick reminder of the blockchain maturity model itself. The blockchain solutions are assessed on 5 layers. The first one is that some portion of the element is documented or implemented. The second layer is that it is documented. The BMM element description have been incorporated into a solution documentation package. The third level is that it's validated. It works as a proof of concept, that there's adequate evidence that the solution demonstrates that it functions as intended. Fourth layer is that it's in production. The solution is capable of an operational deployment. The fifth layer is called optimizing, and this is where it's maintaining a continuity of their operations with consistent and reliable performance over a long period. Now, looking at those 5 layers, the solution is assessed against 11 elements. Distribution, where we're looking at concentration risk of hosting from homogeneous to heterogeneous. Governance, so that there's effective management of key components of the solution. Identity ensures that controls are in place for identity and access management. Interoperability, facilitate the ability of blockchain solution to share and use information and other assets with other legacy or blockchain solutions. Performance, ensuring that the transaction volumes and speed are suitable for the use of the blockchain. Privacy, ensuring that the solution has adequate encryption and protections of personal identifiable information. Reliability, assurance that adequate controls address and mitigate the resolution of disputed forks, blocks, errors, or fraud. Resilience, ensuring that the continuity of operations during unforeseen events, limitations, and failures. Security, assurance that adequate controls address and mitigate the end-to-end security risk of the solution. Infrastructure sustainability, ensuring that the availability of all resources required to maintain the capabilities and satisfy requirements throughout the life of the solution. And lastly, synchronization, assessing the means for the network to achieve consistency and completeness for finality of the distributed and Government Blockchain Association maturity model. And we have the version listed there. So there's the blockchain maturity model, which can be used for all solutions. But we realize that within particular use cases, and in case the Global Blockchain Association has looked at banking and finance, voting, identity, and healthcare, each of those use cases needs specific supplemental requirements to be reviewed as well. And this is the banking and finance supplement. So the Banking and Finance Supplement Group identified a spectrum of use cases which have unique or differentiating products, services, and functions. Against all the use cases, the working group defined a set of requirements against which the use cases can be assessed. But please note, these requirements represent peak requirements, so will not all be applicable in all the use cases. And again, like the blockchain maturity model review, it is a collaborative process where we're looking to help the solutions identify that they can meet the requirements or what they need to do in order to do so. So looking at the use cases, and these are many and varied, but I'll go through them quickly. You've got a value transfer business, which deals with any type of, points or value or credits in any kind of transaction. Individual banking, like your own banking, personal banking with your bank account. Private banking, which can involve family trusts or other investments. Institutional banking, where you've got big companies interacting with the banks themselves. Community banking, which could cover credit unions as well as local banks. Micro lending and payments, which is obviously a very prevalent topic for emerging markets. Credit cards in general, and debit and prepaid cards. Central or national banks have their own use cases, and separately, there's central bank digital currencies. There's capital markets, which is the issuance of debt and equity and trading and investments in those products. There's structured products, which are around asset-backed securities, exchange-traded derivatives, and then there's over-the-counter derivatives. There's retail investing, institutional investing. And then governments obviously have their own banking and finance needs. And then there's supranational bodies that also require that kind of facilitation, including the UN. Then there's now the new world of cryptocurrencies, centralized exchanges, decentralized exchanges, NFTs, peer to peer distributed apps. So, looking at the supplemental requirements of all those use cases, and the idea is that you should be able to find yourself a solution in one or more of those use cases. Let's look at the potential supplemental requirements. So that you should have auditable records. The solution should generate ledger reporting to meet the general or use case audit requirements. Credit and risk management, transaction data, payable receivables. The solutions ledger reflects the underlying transactional obligations to measure credit and risk exposure. This again may be applicable to certain specialized use cases. Clearance and settlement reflect the settlement finality of executed transactions for digital assets controlled within the network. Process clearance and settlement, where applicable, include transfers, trading, financing, and lending transactions. Confidentiality. The transaction on the shared distributed ledger shall be anonymous and confidential between counterparties and any network intermediary. Digital securities issuance. This is the issuance and control of securities that are only perfected in the network which they hold. And this covers certainly the crypto and DeFi world today, but eventually legacy assets may be issued purely as digital assets, not as electronic or even paper as they are sometimes today. Distributed ledger records. The solution requires that ledger is distributed among several nodes. Distributed settlement. The solution requires that any settlement of a transaction is recorded without the need for a central authority. Double entry accounting. Use double entry accounting standards to record transactions on a mutable ledger. Produce one-to-one reconcilable transaction and balance records for any downstream ledger. Fractional reserve accounting. This is related to banking. The solution should approvably reflect the loan assets versus the liabilities and reserves that bank them and show the money supply increase. Future dated transactions or obligations. The solution shall record future dated payable receivables in the mutable record on the date it was agreed and reflect on the date it will be settled. High capacity. The solution meets the capacity requirements of high transaction volume use cases. Identity verification. The solution shall comply with applicable Know Your Customer and Know Your Counterparty regulations. Interoperability, legacy infrastructure. The solution shall include the capability to bring value into or deliver value out of the network. Interoperability with other networks. The solution shall have the capability to transfer or reflect tokens of assets between networks operating in the same blockchain DLT protocol. Interoperability with other protocols. The solution shall have the capability to transfer or reflect tokens of assets between networks operating in different blockchain or DLT protocols. Lending, payables, receivables. The solution shall have the capability to reflect current date or future dated obligations of loaned asset transfers as journal entries within the immutable distributed ledger. Real-time settlement. The solution shall have achieved settlement finality upon the first recording of an executed transaction in the distributed ledger. Reconcilable records, internal trial balances, and balance monitoring. Regulatory reporting and monitoring. The solution shall record the data to report and monitor and regulatory reporting monitoring of the use case or jurisdiction. The solution is scalable. The solution shall be linearly scalable, vertical, and horizontal for transaction processing. Tax audit accounting. The solution shall records data in formats to generate cost-based tax laws. Third-party legal responsibilities. The solution shall be capable of executing powers of attorney to authorize or confirm transactions and to indemnify the network and participants from errors or fraud, either caused or erroneously approved by any third-party validators within the solution. Transactions and balances. The solution shall generate bank statement or asset custody reporting. And so here we see a matrix. Down the left-hand side is all the use cases I described, and across the top is all the supplemental requirements. And as you can see, we've actually got three classifications. The R means it should be required for the solution to be approved. A requires the assessment should be in the assessment process. It likely is applicable, but may not be. And then there's others that we think are not applicable in certain use cases. But the idea of the assessment is the first part of the assessment is for the solution to agree the use case is applicable to the solution's intended utilization. And then from the BMM supplement matrix as a guide, the assessor and the solution will agree the applicable requirements. And then the solution will be assessed as meeting or not meeting the requirements. For any requirements deemed not to be met, a series of recommendations for remediation will be made. And again, this is part of the collaborative process. So thank you for watching. If you want any more information on the BMM, you can go to the Government Blockchain Association website or contact us through the IGF's Blockchain Assurance and Standardization Dynamic Coalition. Thank you.